Folklore in the United Kingdom can be quite random and can quite often centre around the oddest of items. Everything from buildings to books, stones to statues, and even just bits of nature like rivers and even the wind. One such famous site is a certain oak tree that lies just outside of the village of Alton, along the path known as Barbary Gutter. This ancient path once led from the village of Alton to St Giles's Church in Cheadle. It is heavily wooded and at times reasonably steep, but the most interesting point is the massive oak tree covered in large metal chains. But why is this tree covered in chains? There are many stories from local areas, but perhaps the most famous is that of the Earl of Shrewsbury. In fact, the story is so famous, it became the basis of a ride at the nearby world-famous theme park of Alton Towers. The ride is called Hex, the Legend of the Towers, and has been thrilling guests to the park since the year 2000. The story goes that the Earl of Shrewsbury was riding home to the towers in the mid-1800s. Somewhere along the trail his carriage came across an old beggar woman, standing huddled at the side of the road. As the Earl got nearer, the woman approached him and started to beg for coin. Being a greedy and callous man, the Earl shunned her and pushed her away from the carriage. There, as she lay in the mud, she cursed the Earl, saying that every branch that fell from the tree would mean the death of a member of his family. Of course, the Earl did not believe such tales and continued on his journey, paying the beggar woman no further mind. But soon, there was a great storm in the area, and the wind howled through the forested regions of East Staffordshire. When the morning came and the Earl ventured out into the woodlands, he saw the tree the beggar lady had cursed, and one of the great branches was now lying on the ground next to it. Seconds after he saw this, one of his servants came running up to him to bring him the terrible news that a family member had perished. Shaken to his core, he remembered the words of the beggar lady from the night before, and immediately fell to his knees in despair. Shortly afterwards, he ordered the construction of great iron chains. These were brought to the tree and wrapped around it in order to prevent the falling of any other branches, and although the Earl is long gone, the chains and the tree remain to this day. This isn't the only story of why there are chains on the tree. A different tale of an older story, one where the villagers of East Staffordshire were terrorised by a malevolent spirit. For many seasons the spirit caused trouble by rotting crops and spooking animals. Salvation came in the form of an ancient wise woman, possibly even a witch, who came forward to contain the beast. She did battle with the spirit and eventually bound it into the trunk of a great oak tree. Then, for extra protection, she bound the tree in great metal chains of solid iron. Metal, of course, is anathema to the fey folk and spirits. Although the chains that now bind the tree have been traced to construction much later than this supposed story, it goes that they were replaced to, of course, stop the spirit from escaping again. And this explains why the steps that lead up to the tree are far older than the chains that currently encompass it. A final and more light-hearted story has a tinker passing by the oak and asking a fellow traveller about the large tree. The other traveller, heralding from France, responded with the word chêne, this being the French word for oak. Upon hearing this, the tinker thought the traveller quite mad. It was obvious that this was a great oak tree, and not a chain. But for some unknown reason, he then decided to drape the tree in heavy iron chains. Perhaps as a joke to mock the Frenchman, perhaps as a way to remind himself of the word, perhaps none of the above. We may never know the original reason for why the chains were wrapped around the tree, but much like the tree and the chains itself, the stories will last for many years to come.